Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Now I'm calling to stage our next speaker, and Binan, who represents Clarivate, our silver sponsor. And you have 10 minutes.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, I think you're seeing my screen. If you're not, then somebody let me know. But thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about what we do at Clarivate in this sponsor presentation. My name is Ann Bynan. You can see my email there. Happy to talk with any of you, answer questions now, later, anytime. And I'll just run through, very briefly some ways we can help you. So I just want to reiterate something that, Rebecca Bryan said at the beginning of this whole conference, that we have a very complex landscape here of systems when it comes to research information management systems. She has a much better visual for this, but you get the idea that you might have a CRIS system, a faculty activity reporting system, research networking, research analytics, all kinds of things that have some type of overlap. And there's really no one size fits all model for everybody. So I realize you're all coming at this from different places, and we have ways to help you no matter which scenario you're coming from. So if you're not familiar with us as Clarivate, so we have insights you need to turn bold ideas into life-changing innovations. So what does that mean? So we basically support the entire R&D cycle from discovery through to protection and commercialization. So in that, we work with academic and government organizations, of which I think many of you are part, but also a lot of companies as well, to help them do drug development as well as other types of corporate R&D, and then patenting and IP protection. So when we think about this topic of finding experts, we actually approach that in a variety of ways. So we do key opinion leader or KOL identification for industry and academic partnership, talent identification when it comes to academic recruitment and retention, also identifying reviewers who are experts for the purposes of grant review for funders and manuscript review for publishers. So these are different ways to think about finding experts and that our data could support. But researcher profiling is really, what the focus of this conference is about. So I'm just going to focus on that for now. These are some of the brands and the products you might recognize that we have. Web of Science, of course, EndNote, Derwent on the patent side, Cortellis on the drug development side. Many of you might have these resources, some of them at your institution. We've been in this space for a very long time, 50, 60 years in some cases. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Web of Science data because that is essential to this researcher profiling and expert finding use case. It's used by over 9,000 institutions around the world. This just gives you an idea of kind of the global extent of that, from different national evaluation exercises, funding agencies, many different universities. So again, you might be using our data in one way or another right now. So certainly we want you to leverage that in the context of expert finding for sure. But in this complex space, so what do we do? How can we help you? So we can offer data, so mainly on scholarly publications and citation metrics. We also have a CRIS system, so current research information system, customized research portals, and research analytics. So I'm just going to talk very briefly in these 10 minutes about these things, just to give you some awareness. So again, depending on where you're coming from and what you need, these are kind of 4 scenarios. You could have a different one. But oftentimes we find that people need trusted publication data for their CRIS or FAR system. So maybe they have a blank system and they need to get publication data, or they have an existing system, they need to augment that type of data, which is always essential when it comes to research. Maybe you have a CRIS or FAR system and really what you want is that public portal to expose your expertise to the world. Maybe you have a CRIS or FAR system and what you really need are the research analytics, so measuring research impact. Or maybe you need a whole system, or research portal. So if you need trusted publication data, and again, whatever kind of system you have, it could be homegrown, it could be commercial, it could be Vivo, it could be Profiles RMS, you name it, Many people come to us and they value our data in the Web of Science. Number one, because it's multidisciplinary. So because we index scholarly literature from around the world and all disciplines, sciences, social sciences, arts, and humanities, it gives people a one-stop shop to pull in that type of metadata that they can't get necessarily from something like PubMed, which is fine, for biomed, but not other fields. Web of Science in the core collection, we have over 21,000 journals, just to give you an idea of the scope of, what is covered in this data source, as well as books and conferences and data sets and a number of other things. And really, if you know anything about Web of Science, it's known for being trusted and authoritative and accurate. We take great pains to select the content. So we put in a lot of work. So, it's not like Google Scholar where you're just getting anything and everything. You know that these are high quality journals and other sources. They're not predatory. So you know that it's really high quality data for your systems. And you can leverage APIs to integrate the data programmatically, which is always nice. But also we offer customized disambiguated author publication lists if you want to go the extra step of having something a little bit more clean. So as I mentioned, if really your need is to showcase your expertise externally to increase your collaboration and your reputation, we offer research portals, and we use Vivo for that. So a couple weeks ago, I presented with Bruce Herbert about Vivo, so I won't reiterate that, but Vivo is open source. It has no license fee. It's managed through Lyrasis. There's a link here if you want to learn more. But this just gives you an idea of some of the research portals we built with Vivo. You can check them out at your leisure. We are a certified partner with Lyrasis for Vivo, so we have their stamp of approval to provide services to build out a Vivo for you using any data and any specifications you'd like. If your need is to take profiles that you have in any kind of existing system and run analytics on them, we can also do that. So we pull data from other systems into our Insights benchmarking and analytics tool, which is where we would map it to the Web of Science data and enable you to run any number of visualizations and analyses that help you to benchmark research performance, research impact. What's your international collaboration look like? What's your industry collaboration look like? Who's funding you and your competitors, et cetera, et cetera. So that's another pathway that sometimes people follow. And lastly, if you need a full CRIS system, so you're looking for something that's, enabling you to collect, manage, validate all of your research information, we have Converis. So this just gives you an idea of how that works, bringing in data sources from a variety of places, helping you to validate and curate that information from grants, publications, et cetera, and reusing the data in a number of ways. And this just summarizes what I just said. You guys can definitely have these slides. But again, just trying to put this in some buckets of different ways. And we'd love to talk to you, if you have needs in this area, about what might be the best sort of combination of things and leveraging things you might already have from us, through your current subscriptions as well. So how do you find out more? Again, we would be happy to talk to anyone who's, having issues and needs support in any of these areas. So if you know your local Clarivate Web of Science representative, certainly you can ask them. If you aren't sure who that is, you can certainly contact me. There's my email address and I will help you. We also encourage you to check out, again, those Vivo research portals we built. So here's a few of them that you can look at from Florida International. I know they presented here a little while ago in the conference. Ochsner Health System in Louisiana, Eastern Virginia Medical School, and Advent Health Research Institute. So again, just wanted to be really brief. Hopefully that was quick. If you need anything either now or later, like I said, very happy to chat with you. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Again, if you have questions to Anne or to any other panelists, please post your questions to the Q&A discussion board, and we will field those questions at the end of this session. Our next speaker is Joon DJ Lee from Texas A&M, and he will present on our collaborative research project that examined research information management problems on research university campuses.
Thank you.
Welcome, Joon,
Let
and
me
you can start your
share my
presentation
screen.
now.
All right. Can you see my screen and can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you well.
Yeah. All right. Hi, I'm Joon Lee by DJ. I'm Research Information Systems Librarian at Texas A&M University Libraries. In this project, I collaborate with Na-eun and Besiki Stvilia at Florida State University. Here I'm going to share with you about our research study titled Research Information Management Program, Problems in Research University Ecosystem. So here's the content. I'll start with current issues and problem in RIM ecosystem and RIM ecosystem in Research University, and talks about why we study RIM problems, project design, and findings. So let's start with the issues. Research institutions care about increasing research productivity, research reputation, and research discoverability. And RIM systems contain all the related data, very large information. And also university leadership wants to use RIM system to optimize their reporting and evaluation workflows. Also, funding agencies expect to track and evaluate the research impact and economic values. RIM systems can help organize research information. So, however, RIM systems have some complexity to maintain it and use it. The first will be there are so many actors and stakeholders around RIM system. Their needs, goal, audience, norms, rules, standards are all different. We talked about in earlier presentation and discussions. And because of their different use cases, disciplines, and sectors that they are in, they have different requirements and expectations on the system. Also, RIM systems combine many different types of information, data from internal and external database, which means complex research information infrastructure. RIM systems has lots of benefit for research communities. However, it is sometimes difficult to implement the system and hard to maintain their data clean. So in this study, we wanted to identify any problems that can be rebuilt when universities maintain their own research information in management systems. And we think this will help many institutions who are planning to implement their own RIM system. So again, why we study RIM problems? Because identifying problems help identify opportunities for system evolution and improvement. Complex distributed socio-technical system, which is RIM systems, have complex problems. It may require a systematic theory-driven approach to identify or predict problems, make sense of them, and devise interventions. Okay, so this is our project design. We used activity theory as our framework and interviewed 15 RIM system librarians or RIM managers in research university setting. Each interview was about an hour long, and we were able to hear lots of information about their issues and problems. So if you want to know more about this study, here is the link to our paper, currently in press. All right. So RIM problem, before I talk about the problem, let me just briefly talk about activity theory for those who are not familiar with this. Activity theory provides a theoretical framework for describing and analyzing actions and interactions with technology within multiple contexts. In this theory, each angular point in the triangles are mediating factors. They are all related to build an activity in this context. The examples of activity can be something that we want to do with a RIM system. So here is some example I come up with. For example, maintain publication data up to date can be an example activity. So obviously it is object, which is goal, maintain publication data up to date, and for this activity, subject will be researcher, and their actions will be claim or reject publications or manually updated publication metadata. So manually update their publication data to their profile. And tools will be publication harvester and RIMS profile editor. Division of labor can be their roles between curators, students, or researchers. And maybe their motivation might be researcher self-efficacy as an internal motivation, or faculty evaluation from their institution as an external motivation. So they want to maintain their publication data up to date and clean. And all related factors, or all mediating factors, are closely related. And we want to consider about factors when we building the system. So like this example indicate, RIM system activities are on the social technical system. They are not simple issues, and many factors are interrelated. In this study, we particularly investigated the issues and problems around the RIM activity system and identified, categorized the problem as contradictions between different factors in this theory. Because even though we have clear object, some tools or some actions are contradict each other. So we wanted to identify it and find out those issues and problem. It will help on our understanding to comprehensively think about these systems. So we found many different issues and problems and categorized them based on their types and complexity. If an issue involved with only one factor in this theory, it is first level problem, we're calling. And then if problem involved with two factors, it is second level. Three or more factors, it will be third level problem. And then the last fourth level problems involved with the multiple activity systems. So now I'm going to talk about the problem. So first level problem, starting with object, it's its goal. What is the main goal of the RIM system? It is kind of very important. As I mentioned in my earlier slide, universities care about research impact and institutional reputation. The data that you have in your system are very important and critical asset for the university. And maintaining a RIM system is not an easy task. Its data is complex and hard to collect and maintain. So with this goal, the cost of the possible failure of the RIM activity is too expensive for the library's reputation. So after you decided that you are going to implement your RIM system, you don't really want to fail managing the system and its data, right? And this is the first level problem conflicting with the object using this guiding by this theory. So we want to build a good system. And so the question we want to ask or consider about would be, do we have sufficient resources to build this system before you implement, before you're planning? Or have we performed a feasibility analysis before taking on our particular RIM project? And here is a checklist question that you want to consider before, and resolutions, possible recommended resolution for this problem. But since I have limited time, I'm going to just quickly pass all of this checklist question and resolution. But I'm going to spend more time with talking about the problem for each level. So the first level problem involved with the tools. So how many RIM systems do you have in your universities, right? And also how many profiles do you maintain as a researcher? More choice in available tools increase the cost of RIM adoption decision-making. Universities have many different and similar systems, and system for author identifier, another system for faculty evaluation, also system for faculty hiring process sometimes, and system for interdisciplinary collaboration. And how many systems and profiles do we need? Or do we need only one system to combine everything, or one single system? But it's obviously very difficult to. So we want to think about this question. Also, checklist question and resolution. How many RIMs are used on campus? Another first level problem involved with the division of labor. How much completed profile do you want to deliver in library's perspective? 100% complete profile, or 80%, or 50%, and then hand it to the faculty or researchers to complete? Or how many profiles do you have in your RIM system? How many researchers in your institution? How many full-time or part-time employees work in your office? What expertise do librarians have? What expertise do researchers have? So there are all things you want to consider. You want to talk with the researchers about what service that you can provide. And then you also want to know what unique knowledge and contribution only the researcher could make to make clear the division of labor and their roles between stakeholders and users. So this will help build smooth relationship between stakeholders, and it will bring win-win situation for multiple units and within university or partners. So now we are in the second level problems, starting with the subject and tools. Our subjects are different based on their experience, disciplines, and their career tracks, like teaching, research, and clinical practice. They have different needs and expectations on their RIM system. They have different methods to build their own reputation and impact, and they have different types of scholarly work. But in a universal RIM system, one universal system does not always work for different subjects and their needs. University need to customize their system for their researchers' needs, or have different system, and want to understand the subject's different career trajectory. And as another example, researchers may have experience of using different RIM systems from different institutions. They may compare those two systems. So understanding and knowing competitive advantage between RIM systems will help the librarian or research information manager or system managers. It is the problem between subject and tools. Okay, we have also checklist question and resolution, more details. And second level problem between actions and motivation. A contradiction exists between researchers' motivation for quality data and the action of adopting and confirming their work. There is contradiction between these. Researchers want to maintain completed publication list for his or her faculty evaluation and clean data. RIM system manager understand their needs and try to support them by suggesting pending publication for them to claim or reject. However, some researchers with a common last name might get a long list of pending publications, which means too many actions requested to the researcher. Like sometimes some systems send a lot of email and request a lot of actions they need to complete, and then it sometimes gets overwhelmed. Researcher get overwhelmed with the email, with the communication or actions. So that's the issue. So when they get overwhelmed with their actions that requested, researchers might lose the motivation to keep their data clean. So you may need to consider the dynamics of the motivation trade-offs and craft their interventions accordingly. Also, building communication strategy will be a big help to enhance researchers' motivation. Okay. All right. Now the second level problem between division of labor and motivations. Some researchers don't want to engage with their data. They just want complete profile, because for whatever reason, they just want a complete profile. Give me the complete profile. I have something to do. And some researchers might want to be involved with editing their research information data to ensure that the data represent their work accurately and completely. Some researchers also feel self-efficacy and instant gratification when they edit their profile. So this problem is about service or support getting from the manager to meet researchers' motivations. What kind of service researchers are looking for? Are they looking for fully mediated service, RIM profile service, or partially mediated RIM profile services? Or do you have opting out mechanism in your system for your researchers? Or do you perform initial setup and hand in the profiles to researchers so they can have less burden to make their data clean and map up-to-date? So these are all we want to think about. Okay. All right, so now we are in third level problems: subject, object, and rules, norm, and convention. Scholarly communication service, like generating institutional report, providing scholarly impact consultation associated with the RIM systems, are evolving with the research life cycle, but they still conflict with the existing cultural stereotypes about librarians' role. Librarians are still outsiders from the research process. Also, RIM systems data model do not fully meet with the needs of scholarly works in different disciplines. Standard rules and norms differ between the two contexts. So the new desired model conflict with the current culture of a discipline and existing cultural stereotypes about librarians' role in the research process is one of the third level problems. Okay. All right. So finally, this is the last fourth level problems. So contradiction between two activity systems. So as we all know, RIM systems combine data from multiple systems and data sources, right? And they are internal and external database. And each system has their own data standard and rules and norms. They all have their own established activity system and user needs. There will be a lot of conflict between this system. So you want to plan what system do you want to combine and approach, like institutional repository, grant database in your institution, and course database, and also want to know about their data structure and metadata, also their data sharing policy. They may not share the data with you because they have whatever policy, or they're not ready with the sharing, even you are in the same institution. If two systems collaborate, and who's going to work what for division of labor, because the standards are different, and somehow it's not the data will not be automatically shared, automatically integrated. So you also have to think about and discuss about it between units. So let's assume you have fully developed RIM system and you are sharing your data for other university systems. And are you going to process your data for them to feed, or are they going to process your data for their needs? It sounds somewhat very obvious, but sometimes it is not. So RIM system, and then we pass our data to faculty evaluation system, and then how those two data will be integrated. And the systems are different, and metadata are different, and cross mappings are really important. But librarians are expert in information organization, knowledge organization management, but sometimes in the faculty evaluation system in our third-party company, they may not always, but some of them may not really have put the importance and effort on it. So obviously they're not clearly integrated. And then faculty or researchers get confused, and then they want to approach library system, or they're not sure where to contact and approach to fix their data or things like that. All right. So this is all the problem that we have. So we are back to this slide. So why we study this again? Identifying problems help identify opportunities for system evolution and improvement. There are so many factors related to RIM systems, and understanding these help identify new opportunities. Complex distributed socio-technical systems have complex problems. It may require a systematic theory-driven approach to identify or predict problems, make sense of them, and devise interventions. So in this study, we surveyed types of problems, developed checklist question, and recommended resolution for the problems. And we think this can inform the development of best practice guide and design checklist for RIM ecosystem. So if you want to know and read more about this study and then more details about checklist question and resolution, you can find from this paper in press. And this is all of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Joon. Now, last but not least, we have a panel of presenters from Florida International University, and they will talk on merging library and EFS instruction. Welcome, Bryan, David, and Elana. You can start your presentation now.
All right. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you and good afternoon. I'm David Driesbach, Assistant Vice President of Research at Florida International University. And it's a pleasure to present again today with my colleagues from the FIU Library, Bryan Cooper and Elana Karshmer. A few words about FIU first. FIU is an R1 category top-tier research university and the public University of Miami. As we approach the new decade in 2020, our enrollment made us the 4th largest public university in the United States. That coming from a university started in 1965. With such growth and change over a 55-year span, we all agree it's an exciting place to work. Today, we're going to provide you our perspective and insights on how we are approaching library and expert finder system instruction in the context of an exciting initiative we're working on together called Scholars at FIU. Scholars at FIU can be found on the web at scholars.fiu.edu, and it uses the Vivo system. Bryan Cooper and I, who Bryan will be presenting in a little bit, and he and I have developed a tremendous partnership over the years as co-project managers on the initiative. Throughout the presentation today, we will dive deeper on how this initiative has been the impetus to help us build out our instructive capacity to our scholarly community. With that said, in this slide here, I wanted to give the high-level key success factors. I put this as a placeholder for our EFS instruction. I'm going to dive into each one of these before handing it off to Elana. First, before you get into any of these, and I think this was presented pretty well in the previous presentation, you have to start with, before you tackle the problems associated with an EFS, you have to start with the why. I listed this first as one of our key success factors because it's probably the most important aspect of a successful training program. It's important when you meet with your faculty, all your audiences, they understand the why before getting to the how and the who. And here are some of the whys that we've been emphasizing over and over at FIU: promoting their expertise and impact and research reputation to the world, individually and collectively. Enabling the connection with expertise on and in and without the community, throughout the community. Reducing burden to maintain scholarly output. And this again ties to the previous presentation. If you don't have this as part of the why, as part of your training program, it's going to be harder to get adoption for your EFS. Also, increasing the ability to analyze and optimize impact and credit in the key external databases used to rank universities. So those are the key whys. Another important element of instruction we have found is to educate faculty using visualizations that project the data automation that's happening as part of your infrastructure. This gives you a good tour here at FIU of our Scholars ecosystem. You'll notice here in the center we have Scholars, which has Vivo and symplectic elements, which are core components of how we're moving forward. And we also have excellent partnerships with both Clarivate and Elsevier and their respective analytical tools So as we present this information to leadership at all different levels and faculty at different levels, we have found that they've appreciated this type of visualization, so they can see that part of the point of this is to help them reduce their burden again, to get the data in the right places. And I'll also mention on the right-hand side of this diagram, we have Panther 180, which is the interfolio product, Faculty 180. So back to the topic of reducing burden, for us, having the integration from our elements out to ORCID and into Panther 180, we're able to sell that as a key benefit for while they'll want to learn about the Scholars at FIU project. Another important component of thinking through your instructive activities related to an expert finder system is the prioritization and managing expectations and timelines. For us, we've been thinking through this at FIU, and here are some of the key factors that we believe are helping us prioritize. We've started at a high priority some of the data elements that are ubiquitous across all disciplines. So things like the name, overviews, related links, URLs. We've put a heavy emphasis on that in the training initially. We've also put a heavy emphasis on the data that's been indexed in these key databases, and we talked about that a week ago in our presentation around tying this to strategic initiatives. We have maybe put as a lower priority the impactful data that's not in the related databases, but it is important that you do have that in your communications and in your learning paths and your implementation paths for them, so they understand that we will get to them on some of the data elements that's important, but may not be as important as some of the other data elements that may be easier, like sponsored research data and other research-related reporting. We also have tied in our usage of tools like Insights and SciVal. It depends on where the user is, where they may be, that they may be ready to go into a tool like that or not. It's also important as you're thinking through your EFS training to align it with what's going on in the perspective of your end users. Annual evaluations, tenure promotions, the calendars around when the actual ranking surveys are pulling data is another important way to motivate faculty to clean their data. Semester schedules, it's good to know when faculty are going to go on summer break and adjust your training accordingly. Thinking about how the university is going to be marketing different initiatives and events is important to timing of the instruction, as well as the reporting that happens on an annual basis and so forth for research, as well as the strategic planning process that we have at FIU called Compass. One other key component around timing is also just what we found here at FIU's Critical Success is testing your materials with end users, starting small, going through that ecosystem with them one-on-one, choosing faculty that have different perspectives, different disciplines, career ages, even engaging administrative folks that are supporting the faculty. And I just put a visualization in here of some of the high-level steps that we've tried to take faculty through. But validating that material is critical before you move on. And one of the most, and probably arguably the most critical component of the EFS is showing the coordination and actually acting through with the coordination with the internal resources. We've had a tremendous amount of cooperation and leadership across the university and with different leads. I work within the Office of Research, and we're giving a presentation later today on finding funding, and we're going to add into that finding collaborators. 4 or 5 minutes just to talk about Scholars at FIU. You're going to hear more about the library in a bit with Elana and Bryan, as well as the AIM office, which helps us with ranking, trainings, and so forth. We have a faculty senate, a marketing group, as well as the group that helps with the faculty evaluations, Panther 180. And also critically important, as you're showing collaboration, leveraging resources, we've had a tremendous partnerships with Clarivate and Elsevier and Elements to get their subject matter expertise and materials and guidance, as well as Vivo and a number of other universities partnering with them to build materials. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to my colleague in the library, Elana Karshmer. Thank you.
You're muted, Elana.
Hi, everyone. About how the library fits into this, so give me just a second.
Hi, Elana. Are you, have you tried to share your screen? Because it
Yes,
wasn't.
I'm having a little bit of a problem. Hold on, give me just a second.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. Sorry. Okay, so let's go on. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the collaboration from the library side. Now, who is involved in this? Obviously, David was just talking about ORED, his office. And obviously, on the library side, Bryan will talk a little bit about that, but I'm going to talk about my part of that, which is the Information and Research Services part, which is my department. My department provides reference and instruction through one-on-one instruction for courses, workshops, so forth, and do liaison work to assigned departments and programs. So we're basically the reference and instruction department that you might expect in any traditional library. Now, what we do for this is we're going to leverage our special skills and knowledge of each participant in order to provide optimum training and support for the university and project goals related to this particular event. So what we were going to do moving forward is think about the ways that our department could help faculty, administration, staff understand the importance of using these tools to really provide support to faculty members that will then lead to helping expand the rankings of the university. So moving forward. Why? Well, the goal for this is to showcase the scholarship and the intellectual output of all of our faculty members. Because they're doing this work, we might as well get credit for it. By doing so, it increases the university rankings and our reputation. And obviously, the higher rankings and reputation scores have a positive effect across the board. So by doing this, it's really a win-win for everyone. A deeper dive into the what part of this. Well, the importance of this collaboration is to ensure that faculty, staff, administrators understand how expert finder systems can contribute to identifying potential publication sources in specific disciplines, which is maybe something that they don't think about, understanding which publications will really have the most impact. It will also help to show them how to create well-maintained faculty profiles, which will assist them in auto-claiming publications and will ensure that all of their scholarly output is claimed for this university, as opposed to, if it hasn't been set up properly, possibly other universities are getting credit for what they're doing now if they were faculty members in the past. So it makes sure that it's just well organized, we're getting credit for everything, and also they're getting credit as members of the faculty at FIU. So what we needed to do is provide baseline instruction on how to create and maintain the profiles, specifically using Web of Science, Publons, and Scopus. So that's kind of the three ways that we were kind of thinking about: Web of Science and Publons, which are related, and then Scopus. So that was kind of my thinking in moving forward. So our contributions to this project: provide instruction on using EFS and analytics and research tools in general to identify publications in a specific area, identify potential sources of publications. So those are two different things because people don't always think of being able to use these tools for both of those areas. Explain the importance of setting up and developing user profiles so people understand when you say, well, where's your Web of Science profile? They know what we're talking about and they can actually set that up. And then have some basic sessions on creating those profiles so that even if we tell them this is important and here's why, we actually give them a chance to go through the steps with someone kind of sitting there, or at least with a very good resources that they can turn to later when they actually sit down and do it, because they might not have time to do it at that moment. We decided to offer instruction sessions to schools, colleges, department programs, kind of on those levels, starting at the top and moving down, so that we could start with basic information that would be relevant to everybody, and then kind of go out to specific programs that might need more specific information for what they need as more sort of disparate groups. So our content was to include standard information on the chosen areas, including, like I said, Web of Science and Publons and Scopus, including a brief introduction to the databases and how to use them, because a lot of people we found during some of our early meetings didn't really understand what they could do. They're very powerful tools, and we're only using specific parts of them. But we wanted people to understand what those specific parts could do. So, brief introduction, then creating their Publons and Web of Science IDs, and then the same thing for Scopus, because it is different and people needed to understand how to do all three of those things. then explain how those tools can assist them as scholars and researchers, and then to explain the benefit of using those tools for them as scholars, but to FIU in general. So it's kind of those big 4 pieces, if you want to look at it that way. So that's kind of the basic steps for creating the session content, which then, as I mentioned before, if we have groups that then come back and say, well, can you go a little deeper into, and then if they name a specific area, we can, everyone in all the different colleges are getting sort of the same information up front. Now, this is just a sample document of what we could include, and this is just for Web of Science and Publons, and it kind of just shows you a flow chart of what people could do and just how they can find their author record, create their Publons profile, and claim their author records, and then maintaining their records. So it's a very easy thing to do. We wanted to make this as easy as possible because, as we all know, every time you go to a faculty member and you say, I want you to do this, another thing, they're like, oh, one more thing to do. So the whole point of this is to create very easy to use tools in a very simple way so that people can just follow those steps and say, okay, you know what? I did my Web of Science profile. I know what I'm doing here. Now let me move on and do this next thing. But giving them simple, easy to follow steps that they can do on their own is really the best way to go, because if we kind of make it too hard and we don't do some of the legwork for them, we were afraid that people would say, well, I already have my Panther 180 profile. Why do I have to have this one, in addition to that? Why do I also have to have an ORCID ID? Why do I have to have Web of Science? So if we explain sort of the use of all of these things and how they work together, and then explain, well, here are the steps that you can take to find all of these things and create them, it's a lot easier and less work for them. So that's kind of the whole point of distilling all the information into a very easy to read, easy to follow step-by-step instructions. And this is what we're going to be working on in my department to provide the support that faculty members will be needing. So our ongoing role, once we kind of roll out these instruction sessions, will be to provide triage for troubleshooting issues, providing support to individual participants as necessary, developing additional training tools when requested, which means leveraging existing materials from vendors, because we did get a lot of those which are super helpful, but we wanted to make sure everything is specific to FIU and to our individual situations. So that way we can just take what they gave us and really make sure it fits in those particular situations. So then we also are creating new material. And then if there's something that we can't answer, we would then refer people to the appropriate vendors who have then offered to hold, I guess you could say, help sessions for faculty members who really need assistance, because really they're the experts when it comes to these tools. So we'll be able to provide some brief support to say, let's get started. Here's how you get going. We'll sit down and help you through it. But if you really need more advanced support, we're going to refer them to the vendors of these products. And so we can kind of help and act as a referral center, which will be a really good place for them to start, since we are actively working with the majority of the colleges and schools on campus. We have liaisons to all of them within our department. And final thoughts on how this is working. It's an ongoing project, and we have to change to accommodate all of our participants' needs. And we don't really know, or we can't really guess what they're going to be, because we haven't had any of these sessions quite yet. But there will be some need for flexibility here. It's essential to focus on the basics to ensure participation, which